Okay, so we are live now. Hello, everyone. I'm Mona Jindani, director at TLC and CEO at ECD4U. Today we are here with our sixth webinar, and today we have Sabui Irtiza with us. ECD4U would like to welcome you all in our webinar. So first, I would like to welcome Ms. Aisha for the welcome note. Ms. Aisha, the principal of the Aspire School Gulshan campus. She has done her MBA in marketing from IBA. She has 12 years of experience in marketing, communication, and advertising with leading media groups in Pakistan, including Dawn and Business Recorder. A decade of teaching and education consultancy experience at leading university, including IBA. Her area of expertise also include curriculum development and language training for educators and corporate professionals. So thank you so much, Aisha, for joining us, and hand over to you.
Thank you so much, Mona. Assalamualaikum to everyone, and I welcome all of you to this webinar. This webinar is hosted in collaboration with the Smart School Coaching Campus and Inspire Grammar School Coaching Campus as well. We are extremely privileged that I'm School Editor, who's the project director of Inspire Network, is conducting this webinar. I believe the webinar is very important. Very proud to stay in this webinar because this correlates very closely with our mission of providing extremely good quality education for our students are very, very important. So we regard such webinars, educators, go hand in hand of Salagrams. So I believe that the seminar is all of us who are participating the importance of developing that. So with that, easily for School Vision Campus, Inspire Grammar School Vision Campus, and I have
Okay, so Aisha, can you hear us? Okay, so thank you so much, Aisha. So now today we have our guest speaker, Sabui Irtaza with us. So today's our topic is land with acquisition in early years. So let me introduce first Sabuhi. Sabuhi, um, she has an experience of 20 years in the education industry, working in various capacity as a principal, teacher, trainer, and curriculum developer, assistant director, and GM operational while working with organizations like Beacon House, the City School, the Smart School. During her vibrant professional tenure is to name a little her profile. She has got to her credit teaching curriculum and its implementation to MBA students, EL students at the PF Kit University, spelled TRC, IBP, and ERDC, and has taught several courses of professional certificate and diploma in education. She is project director of Aspire Grammar School. Thank you so much, Sabui, for joining us. And hand over to you.
Thank you very much, Mona. Unfortunately, I could not hear or see Aisha, so I really don't know what introduction Aisha has given. But anyways, welcome to all the participants who are here. And participants, I would like you to raise your hand, by showing an icon if you are able to see me and if you are able to hear me, because that's very important for the connection. Great, great. I can see a lot of hands up. Well done. I think everybody has to raise the hand up so that we are confident that we are able to hear and we are able to comprehend what is being said. Thank you very much. This topic, thank you very much. I can see your hands up. Brilliant, brilliant group. Thank you for taking out this time, especially on Sundays. A lot of people would not like to catch up on any work on Sundays, but I feel that the group is very, very motivated, and the group is, keen to hear and learn. That's the success of any teacher. That's the success for any parent, and that's the success for any professional. So my wholehearted thanks to all the participants. Having said that, you see this topic, which is coming out from our previous webinar, which took place in November, and Ms. Rakhia Rizwan conducted, wonders of parenting. And from there, we tried to shoot out this topic, which is called language acquisition in children. When we talk about language acquisition in children, I think the most important factor in the development of language in children is not only school's responsibility, but it is also the responsibility of parent. So the parent and the school later on works together for the acquisition of language. When we talk about acquisition of language, it's not, it does not matter whether the native language, the mother tongue we are talking about, or we are talking about the second language, which could be English in our case. And of course, in Pakistan, Indo-Pakistan, everywhere, it is English as the second language. A lot of natives of regional, professional places, regional and provincial places have different language dialects. For example, Pashto speaking, Sindhi speaking, Gujarati speaking, Urdu speaking. So we have a different language at home, which is spoken in front of the child, and which the child is hearing even before birth. So are we talking about the language acquisition in English, second language or third language, or we are talking about just language acquisition, how children acquire language, whether it is Punjabi or it is Urdu or XYZ, whichever language. So when we talk about languages, the major role of adults in the life of children is that they should be speaking in a variety of language. And the variety of language would mean that the language which has wealth of vocabulary. When we speak the language with a wealth of vocabulary, naturally every word is going into child's mind. Children, as they say in research, from the age of 4 months, start absorbing language, clearly. Before that, it is done when they are even not born. But after 4 months, they start understanding the lip movement of the mother, the father, and the people around him. It is also said that children absorb language before speaking language, and the vocabulary is absorbed in their mind. One of the researcher, which you all, I think, all those who are teachers and who have done courses would know that Chomsky started working on language development of children. And according to Chomsky, there is a small little device fit in the mind of the child. And this device is there to absorb the language, vocabulary, and the dialect which the child needs to remember, or which the child will use once he will start speaking language. A lot of countries, developed countries, have started checking child's hearing when the child is born. In 2 days' time, the hearing is checked, and to find out whether the child is absorbing the sounds in the mind. But in Pakistan, most of the time, it is not done. And because it is not done, it is left to the mothers to find out whether my child is able to hear. And in our cases, a lot of mothers don't realize that the child is not hearing or not listening. And when the child is not hearing and listening, automatically the language is not developing. And the words which he or she is talking to the child are not absorbed in child's mind. Now, this is a very crucial, moment for a mother when they realize that the child was not actually listening or hearing, and there is some hearing impairment for this child. I have experience of many, many years. Don't want to show my age by telling you the experience, but yes, my experience tells me that the age of 3 and 3.5, when the children are admitted to school, a lot of mothers find out that the child is hard on hearing, and the language acquisition has not taken place. I still have students in my school and in a lot of schools, and I see that the child is not properly hearing and the language is not developed. The child may be saying just a word, or maybe saying just a sentence, and repetitive sentence is said by that child. Somebody has to realize that he has not acquired or she has not acquired the language. I'm going to share with you the presentation, which has few slides and which is going to give you an onset of knowing that why acquisition of language is not taking place, whether the native language which the mother and the father are speaking, or English language. That is the second step, that English language will also be taught to the child. But the first step is that the child should be known to the language which parents are speaking. And most of the time, children are not even absorbing that language. There is definitely some problem somewhere which needs to be explored. So I'm going to share the slides so we formally talk about how language acquisition takes place in young children. Give me a second so that I share my slide with you. All right, I'm sure you are all able to see the slide. And again, the same kind of indication, raise up your hand so I know that you can see the slide. Just any one of you, if you can raise up your hand to show me. Great, Manur, Lareb, everybody is saying yes, they can see the slide also. So language development and acquisition in young children. Let me just turn it around. Just a minute. The slide is not moving ahead. Just give me a second so that I fix it. All right. When we talk about language and its acquisition, there are these two terminologies. Language learning and language acquisition are two variations. These are two different things. Language learning would mean that the learning which will take place in an environment which has been made to learn the language. The environment has been made to learn the language, whereas acquisition of the language means that the language which is talked or which the child hears in his surrounding and unknowingly and unconsciously absorbing. That is the acquisition part of the language, that the child is hearing different vocabulary, the child is hearing different kind of language, different kind of accent, different kind of dialect, and how he is acquiring the language. Whereas language learning is basically done in the school, where the situation is created for the children to learn the language, and constant effort is made not only by the school but by the parent and by the teacher as well. So this triangle, the parent, the school, the teacher, and the child, of course, in the center, has to go through language learning program. But acquisition, as I said, comes from the family before the child moves into a class or the school. Now, this particular slide is basically just a minute. This particular slide basically talks about language learning, and you can see a picture over here which tells you that the child has been brought to the school where language learning is going to take place. The school system is going to provide strategies for the child where the learning is going to take place. The environment of the school will be created in such a way that the language learning will be emphasized. So the child is in the center, the learning program is set in the school system is going to provide strategies where language learning program will be put in place, whereas the environment will be created in the school where language learning will take place. Whereas there are books, there are contents which the child will be exposed to strengthen the acquisition of the language which has already been done before the child has come into the school. Now, in our case, our children are exposed to two types of languages and are exposed to multiple types of dialects. Multiple types of dialects. If I'm Pashto speaking, my dialect will reflect the Pashto language, my native language, in my English as well. If I'm Gujarati speaking, my dialect is going to reflect my language in English and of course in Urdu as well. So this dialect is a natural dialect. The dialect which we all use has naturally come to us from our parents now and maybe from the school, but you can't do anything about the dialect. What you need to work upon is the pronunciation, whether it is Urdu or English, the acquisition and variety of vocabulary, and of course, the flair of the language, which is important. So there are 4-5 factors which work for the child in the language learning and language acquisition. Acquisition is naturally happening, whereas language learning is a planned program by the school, by the parent, by the adults who are around the child. So these two differences are also important for everyone to be aware of. When it comes to language acquisition, as I said before, that children acquire language through subconscious process. It is happening automatically. So when it is happening automatically, the child should be exposed to the language, whether Urdu or English or Gujarati or Punjabi, Sindhi, whatever. But the child has to be exposed to the language. For instance, if the mother is deaf and dumb, for instance, if the father is deaf and dumb, I know a family where both the parents are deaf and dumb, but all 6 children are completely equipped with the language. So this is a miracle. But how they have done it, I'm sure the other, members of the family must have helped the children to hear the language in the beginning, and rest of the part was from the school side. When I say that the acquisition is happening in the subconscious of the child, I'm again going to relate Chomsky's theory here, that we have a small little device which is absorbing the language the child will speak later on sometime in his life. Children readily acquire the language to communicate with their friends and family. Before the friends, when they are very, very small, they have their own child vocabulary and their own, language in which they communicate to the parents. That is the hint for any mother to know that my child has been developing the language, may not be the words and the vocabulary, and through his actions, I'm able to see what he is asking for. Once the children start making these actions for their needs, gradually they form their own words which they are acquiring from the environment, from the parent, to know how to communicate their needs. The second step or the third step comes in. To acquire knowledge, they need a source of natural communication. Now, this word natural communication is very important. Even when the child comes in the school, people who are related to school on this group will understand that a lot of times teachers are just conveying instructions, whether in English or in Urdu. And if it is an English medium school, let me say it that our English medium schools are not working as English medium schools. They are working as partial English medium schools. That is why the child is neither acquiring Urdu nor the child is acquiring English. When they are not acquiring English and they are not acquiring Urdu, so their good 4 to 5 years in the school are wasted, because if the language is not there and listening has not developed and the vocabulary is not developing, then naturally rest of the strands of language, which is speaking, reading and writing, will always be hampered. That will always be hampered. So what we are trying to say, natural communication with the children. पुराने ज़माने की ख़वातीन और माओं को तो नहीं आता था कि अंग्रेजी में बोलेंगे. उनका तो ये ऑब्जेक्टिव ही नहीं था कि बच्चों को अंग्रेजी सिखाएं. उनका ऑब्जेक्टिव होता था बच्चे को अपनी ज़ुबान आनी चाहिए और वो उस ज़ुबान में बच्चों से बात करती थी नेचुरल तरीके से. लेकिन आज की माँ क्या करती है? आज की माँ कहती है जाइए फेस धो के आ जाइए. भाई फेस धो के आ जाइए, इधर स्पीक इन इंग्लिश और उर्दू. या आपने अपना लंच कर लिया, या आपने अपना बैग पैक कर लिया. Why do we speak in this form where half English and half Urdu? Why can't we speak in complete natural way? जाइए अपना बैग पैक कर लें. ऐसे हम क्यों बोल रहे हैं? देखिए कि आपकी बुक्स बैग में है तो बुक्स को बुक्स कहना है और किताब नहीं कहना. सो आपकी अंग्रेजी हो या उर्दू हो, दोनों ही ब्रोकन लैंग्वेज की तरह काम करती हैं. It is important that natural language to be spoken by the child. Situation has to be created so that the language comes naturally to the children. Young children who are in process of acquiring language get plenty of language on the job. When they are into the situation, when they are doing something, when they are on the job. For instance, if a child is playing with a play-doh, or if a child is playing using the rolling pin and the play-doh, if we are talking to the child about that process in which he is engaged in before even coming to the school, the child is going to develop the rolling the vocabularies. For example, the rolling pin, roll your play-doh. What is the color of this play-doh? Let's make a roti out of this play-doh. So these are the things which will develop if a child is exposed to language in a natural way. Let's see what is coming next. Now, language learning. We have just discussed the acquisition of the language, which is a natural process. Now we will discuss the learning of the language. The learning of language comes with instructions and rules of language. क्योंकि जब स्कूल में बच्चा आता है तो इंस्ट्रक्शंस मिलने लगती हैं, लैंग्वेज के रूल्स की बात होने लगती है, ग्रामर की बात होने लगती है. We realize the grammar in the context of that language also. Books का काम आ जाता है, उसके अंदर से टीचर्स एक्सरसाइजेस देना शुरू कर देती हैं. So language program is structured. लेटर्स इंट्रोड्यूस होते हैं, साउंड्स इंट्रोड्यूस होते हैं. जब साउंड्स की बात करते हैं तो फोनिक के डिफरेंट वेज इंट्रोड्यूस होने लगते हैं. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, इन AGS वी फॉलो जॉली phonics, whereas in other schools synthetic phonics are followed. In some other schools simple traditional ABCD concept is followed. So there are instructions, there are philosophies of language programs which come in the role of a school. It is certainly not important that the child is going to learn the language in certain sequence. There is no sequence of language. The child can learn most difficult vocabulary before even coming to the school. It's the exposure to the language which the child is going to acquire and will learn the syntax of the language. So it is not done in any sequence. Child can learn any language vocabulary even before he comes to the school. You may have come across, teachers especially, and school-related people, that the child comes in with extensive vocabulary to your school. And this vocabulary either comes from the English programs or the Urdu programs he's watching, or this vocabulary may come from the mother or the father or the grandparents he's living with. So students have conscious knowledge of the new language and the new vocabulary, and they can talk about this vocabulary and they can share the knowledge with each other if they have already acquired the language. Children are able to interpret and understand grammar instructions precisely. How do they understand grammar instructions precisely? If the grammar is taught in the context. If the grammar is not taught in the context, then it is very hard for the children to develop the syntax of a sentence correctly. So it is the major responsibility of the school to work on the language skills of children. Importance क्या है लैंग्वेज की, ये तो हम सबको ही पता है. I think this is without saying, everybody knows the importance of language. Language is how we communicate and connect with the people. अगर मुझे कम्युनिकेशन ही नहीं आती, अगर मैं लोगों के साथ कनेक्ट ही नहीं कर सकती, तो आप बताएं मेरा क्या रोल रह जाएगा as a teacher, as a mother, as a parent, as a wife. मेरा रोल क्या होगा? तो बेहतर ये है कि हम सबको लैंग्वेज के ऊपर सबसे ज्यादा मेहनत करनी है बच्चों की, क्योंकि जब वो कम्युनिकेट ही नहीं कर सकेंगे, जब वो कनेक्ट ही नहीं कर सकेंगे, तो उनकी तो जिंदगी मेरा ख्याल है एक जगह पे आके रुक जाएगी. All those people who are more successful in their professional life and in their personal life also are the ones who have good language skills. मेरा language skills से हरगिज ये मकसद नहीं है कि अंग्रेजी बोलना जानते हो. जिस लैंग्वेज में उनकी कम्युनिकेशन है उनको वो आनी चाहिए. हमारे लिए अंग्रेजी बोलना और अंग्रेजी सही लिखना बेइंतहा जरूरी है, बिकॉज वी आर इन रिलेटेड टू अ प्रोफेशन वेयर वी आर टीचिंग चिल्ड्रन इंग्लिश लैंग्वेज. It helps the students understand another country's culture, traditions, and history. Of course, because once the language is developed, they are able to speak, they are able to read, and they are able to write. And when they are able to use all four strands of language, they are able to explore new things for themselves. अभी book day हो रहा है और किसी ने लिखा उस book day पे कि it brings wonders to your life. Yes, it does. But then the school role is to help children develop the correct, the accurate language skills. और हमारे साथ अगर जो भी टीचर्स हैं ये समझ लें कि अगर आपने लैंग्वेज सिखा दी बच्चे को और उसको सही पढ़ना लिखना बोलना आ गया, तो समझे आपका पढ़ाने का मकसद पूरा हो गया, क्योंकि आपने उस बच्चे की जिंदगी बना दी है और उस लैंग्वेज के थ्रू वो सब कुछ कर सकेगा. इट एनरिचेस एंड एनहांसेस मेंटल डेवलपमेंट. बच्चे की मेंटल ग्रोथ, कॉग्निटिव डेवलपमेंट, इंटेलेक्चुअल डेवलपमेंट होती ही लैंग्वेज से है. इफ द लैंग्वेज इज देयर, ही इज एबल टू डू ऑल ऑफ इट. लैंग्वेज लर्निंग कैन बी एग्जीक्यूटेड through many ways. I will tell you in the next slide what different ways you can use, for the children for language development, whether a parent is listening to this talk and discussion, or the teacher is listening to this talk and discussion. We have equal responsibilities. However, the parent will sometimes withdraw from this responsibility because the child is going to the school. हम इस वक्त ये बात हरगिज नहीं कर रहे कि अंग्रेजी सिखानी है या उर्दू सिखानी है. हम बात कर रहे हैं लैंग्वेज सिखानी है. और यस, अगर हमें इंग्लिश सिखानी है, which is the second language and has its own value and importance, then of course the role of the school becomes very vital. जब हम इतनी बड़ी बड़ी बातें करते हैं तो उसके अंदर लैंग्वेज सिखाने पे सबसे ज्यादा emphasis होना चाहिए. It strengthens the understanding of one's own language and culture, and they compare the language and culture of other places also. Language will advance leadership skills and will explore, just a minute, language will, I have to read this, but my bar is hiding it. Anyways, just a minute, my slide is not moving. Just a minute, my slide is not moving. Anyways, it refuses to move. So anyways, I will move on to the next slide, but I will complete the sentence. It was talking about the leadership skills. The leadership skills are very, very important. And हमारी तो philosophy में लिखा हुआ है Aspire Grammar School की कि हम बच्चों को leadership skills सिखाते हैं. और अगर हम बच्चों को लीडरशिप स्किल सिखाते हैं तो वो लैंग्वेज के बगैर तो हो ही नहीं सकती. इफ यू आर नॉट अ गुड स्पीकर, यू कैन नॉट बिकम अ लीडर. एवरी लीडर हैज टू बिकम अ गुड स्पीकर. एनीवेज, how language applies to 21st century education. 21st century education की तरफ हम जा रहे हैं. Our objective is that the children should acquire 21st century skills in education. We have been saying this, the whole world is saying this, all school, I would say, systems are saying it. So to develop 21st century skills in children, students need to learn language to communicate the culture and share their own culture. Most important, they must use appropriate technologies when they are interpreting, interacting, and producing language. और इसमें technology का role हमें लेके आना पड़ेगा. The way Aspire Grammar School is enforcing the role of technology, it is to help children apply the language in 21st century education skills. Students understand how media influences language and the culture. So this media of technology is going to strengthen children's language. Students understand diverse cultural perspectives and use appropriate skills to communicate in their own language and in the language of for the other people to understand the language. There is one very important thing which I would like to, address on before we actually, move on to the next slide. But unfortunately, the slide is not moving. So let me just work it out over here. Just a minute.
Sabui, if you exit the presentation, then it will work out.
Okay, okay.
So just exit the presentation and again go for the slideshow. It will
All right. Okay, okay. It has stuck. I don't know why, but let me just see it. Can I take another 5 minutes?
Yeah, sure.
Sorry, not for fixing this, but otherwise, I'm saying otherwise.
No, that's perfectly fine. That's perfectly fine.
Okay, okay, all right. It refuses to move.
It's moving, it's moving. So
yeah, it's moving now. It's moving, yeah. Can you see the slide, everyone? Can you see the slide?
Yes.
Okay, okay. No, it has stopped. I think I have to exit from the slide and then do it. All right. Can you see the slides? Anyone, if somebody could tell me? Can you see the slide? All right.
Yes.
We were talking about, 21st century skills, and we were talking about the technology, how it plays its role, in language development or language acquisition of children. Technology is one thing. I think the slide has stopped moving, so I'm leaving that right away where it was. And I will give you different strategies also over here. And I will come back to the technology podcasting, which is the most important, way of helping children learn the language after this slide. So bear with me. The sequence of the slide has changed, but I will cover it up in both ways. Anyways, the best strategies for mothers and for the teachers, of course, is to create opportunities for children to learn the language. When I say create and develop opportunities for children to learn the language, the major role is of strategies and the teacher or the mother who's creating this opportunity for the children. Role play is one of the best strategy where children adopt roles, of different characters. जब हम बच्चे थे तो हम अम्मी अम्मी खेलते थे या हम डॉक्टर डॉक्टर खेलते थे. Those were the role play situations. और हम अपना घर बनाते थे एक हट के अंदर और उसमें फिर बात करते थे, एक अम्मी बनती थी, एक खाला बनती थी, फूफो बनती थी. So this was the characterization of different roles in which children see a situation or they encounter a situation and they work towards it. A lot of strategies are there in the curriculum documents, whichever school you are teaching in, and a lot of things are available on Google to find out how role play plays its role in language development. Please create situations for the children, create scenarios for the children so that they can exchange language with each other. Story time is again one of the very, very traditional and old way of helping children learn the language or even helping adults learn the language. Javed Sahab sitting here would agree, he's very keen to read books. Anybody who's able to read the books is developing his or her language simultaneously all the time throughout his life. So storytelling and story time for children and a proper planned story time is a very quality time for the children to develop the language because it will strengthen the vocabulary, it will strengthen the culture which is there in the story. It's going to strengthen the language syntax and the grammar of the children. At the same time, as I say, the grammar has to be taught in context. So in a story, the correct version of grammar can be done simultaneously as the story is progressing. Puppet show or puppetry. Puppetry is a most fantastic idea for children to develop language. You have puppets of different types and the puppets are talking to each other and the puppets are talking to the children. The movement of the puppet is something which fascinates children. They enjoy it. They love it. You can make props with the puppets also. A small little tree, a small little, house where the puppet is interacting with. So these kind of things for small children and even for primary children and middle school children is one of the traditional way of helping children learn the language. Informal settings. Yes, in the classroom also, sometimes there are informal settings. At home, all the time there is informal setting. So in these informal settings, if the parents are talking to children for good 10 to 15 minutes, I think is more than enough for a quality language development. Circle time is one of the strategy which is done in the schools and is more possible in the school. Circle time is basically oracy activity, and oracy activity is what we call in simple words is listening and speaking activity, where the children are talking to you and listening to you. So in the circle time, it's the best time for children's language development. again the technology element has come in, and again I'm going to talk about technology, what we left on the last slide, that the support of technology and its integration, especially in Aspire Grammar School, every lesson is integrated with technology. So when children interact with technology, the technology is supporting in the language development, at the same time conceptual development of what the teacher is planning to do. So the slides refuse to go and refuse to come. So I will use the same way of moving out for 2 minutes and coming back. Give me a few seconds. So the slide, I think they have become very heavy, probably. I don't know.
Sabui, I think you first, when you exit, share the screen of the previous PPT, not with the slideshow. Slideshow को भी exit करना पड़ेगा before you go again.
I know.
We can see the same stuff.
I think they have become very heavy with this drama of artistry which I have done on this. I think मुझे इसमें से निकलना पड़ेगा 2 minutes. Just a minute.
So let us know, Sabui, that if you will
It's
the session, and we have few queries where we have to answer on Facebook.
All right.
I can ask those queries from you.
No, it's here. I think I'm there. Just last slide is left. So all right. Can you see the slide? Can you see the slide?
Yes.
Yes.
So
I was talking about role of technology. I just wanted to wrap up with this slide. And let me tell the entire group which is here that this is just a beginning, language acquisition presentation, because my next talk on this in the same, with the same topic, we are going to grow this talk with next 4-5, presentations. And that's going to be how to create situations for language development. And technology element, we are going to take it separately for language development, and maybe we go hands-on for the participants. But anyways, as I said in the beginning also, and later, on the last slide as well, that technology is a tool which is going to help people in language development. You see, there was a time when language was learned through rote learning. So majority of the schools were relying on language development through rote learning. In that context, meaningful connections were less likely to be made. But if you engage the child with the technology and work with the children, especially for a strategy called podcasting. Podcasting is one of the most interesting element for young children, starting from playgroup and you can go up to class O levels or A levels. Podcasting has this element that you record child's voice and you make the child record every day something which he likes to, maybe retelling of the story, maybe something which he has read, and see the variation of his language along with the child and the parent, on parent teacher meetings. Otherwise, also invite a parent and let him see that how the child is interacting with technology and recording his language again and again. When you record your language and you listen to it yourself, you will realize that your own pronunciation and your own dialect will change. You will admire your way of talking sometimes, and sometimes you will not like it. So, for a child to develop language, podcasting using technology as a tool is going to help all the parents and all the teachers, I think, in the journey of language development. Positive learning attitude in less anxiety. And less anxiety that comes from learning a new language will also be ensured through podcasting. Nervous nahi hote bacche. They are all alone and they are recording their own language. If a child is stammering, podcasting is one of the best thing for a child to use as a strategy for language development. I'm going to stop this and we'll get together. This screen sharing has been stopped. We'll talk, and discuss if there are any questions. Yes, Mona, over to you. I think I have taken little more time than was allocated to me.
That's okay. That's
Yes.
okay. So
right.
we have few queries. I'm
All
just
right.
asking one or two queries so that we
Ji.
will end up the session on time. So one of the query is that how important is the acquisition of English language for 21st century?
You see, not only for 21st century, I think the importance of English language has been determined, at least in Pakistan, from last 70, 75 years. And I think before partition also, this was one of the things which was, I must say, everybody vouched for it. It is important that this language is known to the child, and for not only he's not only for Pakistan, but otherwise internationally, you become more confident if you know languages. I think not only English, other languages should also be known and should also be developed. But yes, English has its own benefit, and being an international language, it gives you edge over other things. Any other question?
Yeah. So the last query which we have is that if child does not acquire any language by age 3, is the child is autistic?
Not autistic. Child may not be autistic. We have to get his hearing checked, number one. Number two, we need to see that the exposure of the child to the language needs to be evaluated also. क्यों नहीं हुआ? Why? What happened? Was there no language around him? Which is not possible. Language and sounds and voices are around a child. You hear so many voices and sounds around you. Why the child has not developed a language? I think immediately the mother, the parent should contact a doctor, should approach a doctor, should go for speech therapy. In fact, it should be noticed before age 3. As I told you, everyone is sitting here. There may be young parents also, that from very young age, from 4 months, the child starts responding to the language. Now, if the child is not responding to the language and has not said any word, I think the mother should immediately contact a doctor and take medical advice on it. Zaruri hai, some children have tongue tied. So this tongue tied is a very minor surgery, but should be done immediately in small, when child is small. And tongue tied is one of the reason in many cases where the child is unable to speak. Secondly is the hearing. Maybe he is hearing impaired. Maybe because of the hearing, he has not listened to the language. Any other question?
No, thank you so much for the wonderful session, Sabui. I think we have ended up with the queries.
Okay.
So now I would like to, call for the closing remarks, Rakia Rizwan. So let me introduce her. So Rakia, sorry. Are you saying
Sorry,
something?
Mona, before we conclude this, I would like, to speak to the group which is here, that our next session is going to be on how to create situations for the children so that language development is can be enhanced in the schools. And there is a series of these, sessions which we are going to conduct, I think, every now and then. And Mona, you have to make a schedule for this because I can see a lot of parents and a lot of teachers who were asking for this. This was just an outline to things. I think the major would be when we take steps and we take people to move on and help children in their schools and help their own children as parents for the acquisition of language and learning of language. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Sabui. Thank you so much.
Over to Rakia.
So thank you so much. So let me first introduce Rakia. I hope Rakia is here with us. So Rakia has done her MBA in Educational Management from IOBM. She has graduated in mathematics from Punjab University. She has experience of more than 20 years in executive management roles and as a trainer and mentor. Currently, she is director at Aspire Grammar School, Badurabad campus. So hand over to you, Rakia. Rakia, are you here?
Raquel is on mute. We need to make her co-host for the unmute herself.
Okay. Okay, so sorry for that. Rakia is on the co-host. Yes, Rakia, hand over to you.
Assalamualaikum. Can you all hear me?
Yes, Rakia, we can hear you.
Thank you so much. First of all, ECD for you and Subhi. Basically, what I am going to end it on you. That is, I'm sorry. Just give me a second. This is a voice echo going on. Yes, can you hear me now?
Yes, Rakia.
All right. Language acquisition is very, very important aspect if we see through the perspective of as a teacher and as a mother. Yes, I totally agree with Subhi that most of the time parents actually deny this fact that the language is built at home. They said कि language तो school बनाता है, but हमारा मानना है कि language basically घर से बनती है. Now, recently I have seen 2 to 3 students whom like having a hearing issue since birth, but parent ignored this aspect, and actually ये चीज उनको पता चली when the children came into the age of approximately 4 or 5 years old. टिल देन वो यही चीज रही कि इनको सुनाई बोलना नहीं आता, ये बोलते कम हैं. Usually, when we have an age group of 2.5 or approximately 2 and above, children come to us with no language understanding at all sometimes, and sometimes they hear well, but they are not in a practice of speaking. So language acquisition in a normal, proper aspect is actually started at home through the different people around, through the adults around especially. And yes, then afterwards, the other aspects of that language learning come into a proper planned program. AGS, Aspire Grammar School, actually planned this thing very, very minutely into its curriculum. And we use lots of things, not for the language acquisition of English, but also for the language acquisition and the language learning of Urdu as well. And hope so, inshallah, that in future we are going to come up with the other language learning too. Most of the time, parents when come to us and ask कि ये play-based Montessori क्या होती है, choice का क्या काम है? तो actually जैसे अभी सबूही ने mention किया कि हम जब छोटे होते थे तो हम घर घर खेलते थे, हम डॉक्टर खेलते थे, तो that role plays में उस वक्त शायद हमारे पास toys इतने नहीं होते थे, लेकिन अब टॉयज होते हैं. बट टॉयज के साथ खेलने के लिए भी एज अ पेरेंट आपको साथ थोड़ा सा क्वालिटी टाइम देना है. यू हैव टू सिट अलोंग विद देम, यू हैव टू प्ले अलोंग विद देम, बिकॉज उस टाइम जो नेचुरल लैंग्वेज बिल्डिंग होती है, जो नेचुरल लैंग्वेज एक्वायर बच्चा करता है, दैट एक्चुअली हेल्प अ चाइल्ड टू डेवलप मोर लैंग्वेज एक्विजिशन. Recently, one of my students from my campus is transfers to another campus, Sabui's campus. Now that child, when she came to me, I'm quoting the example because वो थोड़ा सा तोतला जरूर बोलती है, but what actually impressed me is that whatever the things come in her life, either it's food, either it's things, उसकी Urdu language acquisition is very, very strong. There were so many fruits and so many vegetables which were shown to her through flashcards, through pictures to other children as well. She was the only one who knew all the fruits names, all the vegetable name. यानी उसको जो खिलाया जा रहा होता है वो उसको पहले बताया जा रहा होता है. That was the best part and best example of the language acquisition. That's why Aspire Grammar School embedded all those areas of language building through a proper structure program form, but also in a very, very natural way, so that the child would connect all the learning throughout its environment, throughout the people around them. Either it's their class, it's her classmates, or either it's their people at home, it's the parents or the grandparents or the children at home. Even it helps the child to socialize best. What I would request, and I can say that this is the ending remarks right now, that please all the parents who are listening, do not make the child to sit alone only with the things. Give a quality time, sit along with. अगर आप किचन में काम कर रहे हैं, आप कोई भी चीज कर रहे हैं, if you remember in my last session, the wonders of parenting, I mentioned it many times, that make the child to be along with you all the day. हम most of the time हम कहते हैं हम बहुत busy हैं, हम बच्चे को बहुत सारी चीजें, colors, crayons, papers and toys देके हम उसे साइड पे बिठा देते हैं और हम समझते हैं हमने अपना काम कर लिया है. लेकिन एक्चुअली वही बच्चा जब स्कूल में आता है तो उसे लैंग्वेज एक्वायर करने में प्रॉब्लम आती है, क्योंकि 4 months की एज से अप्रोक्सीमेटली 3 years की एज का जो लैंग्वेज नेचुरल लैंग्वेज एक्वायरिंग टाइम होता है, लैंग्वेज एक्विजिशन का टाइम होता है, वो गुजर चुका होता है. That's why such students are very reluctant for the public speaking. Such children are very, very reluctant into talking with some others, crowd fear इनमें बहुत होता है, stage fear इनमें बहुत ज़्यादा होता है. लेकिन those children who are given a proper time to acquire even the native language, even the mother tongue at home, चाहे वो पंजाबी है, पश्तो है, बलोची है, सराइकी है, इंग्लिश है, उर्दू है, आपका जो भी घर का स्टाइल है, वो आपके बच्चे की कॉन्फिडेंस बिल्डिंग में और उसकी लैंग्वेज बिल्डिंग में बहुत हेल्प करता है. थैंक यू सो मच वंस अगेन फॉर बीइंग हियर और बैक टू यू मोना. थैंक यू.
Thank you so much, Rakia. So now I would request Javed sir. He's director at ECD4U and Aspire Grammar School Gulshan campus. So hand over to you, Javed sir.
Thank you very much, Madam Sabui, for today's session. I believe that today is one of the important sessions that we have done at the webinar. And I believe that whatever learnings you have told us today, they are going to be an important instrument in the upbringing of the children at Aspire Grammar School, not only at Aspire Grammar School, but also otherwise for the general fraternity of parents. I would also like to say thank you to our main sponsors today for this webinar, Ms. Aisha Sheikh, Principal for Aspire Grammar School, Gulshan Campus. Also, I'm thankful to Ms. Rakia Rizwan, Principal and Director at AGS Aspire Grammar School, Bahadurabad, for wonderful closing remarks. I've seen many people joining today. Around 50 to 60 people have joined today on the Zoom. Beside this, we have another viewing of 40-50 people on the Facebook live page. I can see also Sajjad Haider Saab present here from the head office of the Aspire Grammar School. Thank you very much for joining us today. I believe that today is one of the important sessions. Our other sponsors also, I would like to thank you them also. Our other sponsors are ECD Hub from United States. We have Smart School Gulshan Campus 2, and we have other people from the Aspire Grammar School's other campuses. ECD4U is not only for the webinars, we have training programs as well, and another training program that we are going to conduct is on the early years development diploma courses, as well as foundation course and advanced courses. Already we have done a few of the advanced courses and few of the foundation course already done. Another course is going to start in next week's time, which Mona will share you on the website, on the Facebook page of ECD4U. Thank you for joining us today. And I believe that Madam Sabui's presence today has had made this event very successful. And we always believe that wherever she is always giving us right guidance on the way of upbringing and also reshaping the minds of children that we have. And we are going to get always kind guidance from her. Any last word, Ms. Sabui, from you, then we can end today's session. You are mute.
Thank you, Javed. Always very wonderful remarks to conclude the sessions. And I think in less time, we try to put together a lot of things, a lot of learning opportunities for everyone. And these programs, I think we'll increase the time, Javed, from next time from 30 minutes, make it 45 minutes at least, because there's so much in these broad topics like the one we started today. And as I'm saying that this topic has no end to it, and a lot of I think connections develop, and a lot of things shoot out from such webinars. The webinar is seen today, internationally also, which is a great success for all of us sitting here, and the ones who have taken part in this, but otherwise also for ECD and Aspire Grammar School. So we will try to go as much as we want to, but yes, efforts of everyone is needed. and we will try to strengthen our relationships with ECD and between Aspire Grammar School, and we'll continue to conduct successful webinars in future also. So thank you, Javed, for providing this platform to me and my team members. My colleagues are here today from Lahore, from Faisalabad, from Charsada, from Peshawar, and I think a lot of people have joined. I thank everybody, all my students who are there on orientation currently. Thank you, Zia. I can see you here from Jhang. So beautiful to have everybody together. And we will continue the process of learning, and we will keep driving each other and will learn from each other. Thank you very much. Mrs. Nazish Omar Shah was also available today. Thank you, Nazish, for taking out time for all of us. It's a great honor for Aspire Grammar School to have the CEO sitting across in the session. It's of course a learning opportunity for we, you, and everybody around. Thank you, team ECD and colleagues, heads of schools, teachers and coordinators, whoever has become part. Thank you from my side. Thank you, Javed and team. Thank you, Akbar. And thank you, Sajjad Sahib and Saima, Kashif, whoever from their office is there. Allah Hafiz.
Thank you, madam, and thank you very much, Madam Nazish Omar, for her presence today. I think this is a wonderful opportunity for us to also say hello to her through our ECD platform, ECD for You platform. Also to Madam Nazish, thank you very much, and I believe that we are going to have more sessions like this in the future. Today's program was also covered by ARY News. ARY News and our media partners cover Kahani. Today, they are also covering our session today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Javed.